Thanks, Steve, and welcome everybody to what's a very exciting day for this project. And it's also a very informing day, we hope, for the private sector and for Extension and for informing the research of the project. So thank you very much for attending today. We're aware that a lot of people here know lots about the project, and we're aware that some people know very little about the project. So I've got 5 minutes to try and brief everybody about the key components about this project and where it's come from. So for those of you who know it all, you can have a little snooze. For those of you who don't know anything about the project, then hopefully you'll be a little more informed. So the project origin, the project is the key partner or the key funder of this project is the Department of Agriculture and Water Resources, the Australian Government Department, and the Rural R&D for Profit program, which the aim is to fund highly collaborative R&D projects to support continued innovation in Australia's primary industries. So that's sort of the overarching aim and goal. And that's been driven by the 2015 white paper that informed the system. So it's very much something that Minister Joyce has had a driving force behind. It's the priority isn't the R&D particularly. The priority is, as it says there, the primary producer profitability, productivity, adaptability and on-farm progress through a range of mechanisms such as generating knowledge and technologies, products, strengthening pathways, extending R&D, establishing and fostering industry and research collaborations such as this project. So for this project specifically, there are a range of priorities. This project specifically focuses on identifying practical proposals to stimulate private sector, its extension services, particularly to fill current gaps. So that's some of the, in a sentence or two, some of the background. And of course, there's lots more between the lines. So this project, Ian mentioned before, and Steve, there are a lot of partners there. So we have the Department of Ag and Water Resources, and all these people, all organisations that we're talking about here are contributing in a financial and in-kind sense. So the project steering committee, for example, includes the University of Melbourne, Meat and Livestock Australia, Dairy Australia, Cotton Research RDC, Australian Pork, Sugar Research, Horticulture Innovation Australia and the two state governments that Ian mentioned earlier. So all those people, or all those organisations contribute and it's my job to try and manage that project. So you can imagine it's not that easy. It's pretty complex managing I suppose so many organisations with so many different ambitions, but we have a steering committee that do a wonderful job. On top of that, there are a number of other people involved in the project. That we have quite a few contractors, private sector contractors, and we have private sector people that you'll meet this afternoon who are leading the project's trial, the trial emphasis. So we have some trials here, which I'll quickly show you in a second, and you'll hear from those people this afternoon. So it's very much a private sector collaboration with these key investment partners. So what's happened and what's the program about? So with an emphasis on being collaborative, and that's the drive of the Rural R&D for Profit program, adaptive and, as you've seen, cross-sectoral, and it doesn't mean other sectors aren't involved. We have had a range of other organisations, RDCs and cross-sectoral people here today and at our other forums. So let's just quickly run through what hangs off the project. That work? Yep. Okay. So we have collaborative governance. So the steering committee and project management committee, we have a range of organisations involved in that. So that's part of the starting point of the project. There was a literary review, which reviewed models of private sector engagement and in both Australian and international extension systems. So that's happened since the project started in the middle of 2015. There's a framework for monitoring and evaluation. So the framework's been developed. It's not just to monitor and evaluate the project, it's also to monitor and evaluate some of the goings-on within the project today, the other surveys and reviews that we've had. So it's whole of project. It also includes a benefit cost analysis, and that will also make an economic evaluation of both the collaborative and the impact of a stimulated private sector on agricultural productivity. So you can imagine that's quite a challenge. So that element has commenced as well. There's a framework for communications, including media. We have a website. We have an e-newsletter, which many of you I know are on, and that's sort of, I suppose, informing others and inviting others to be part of the project at various occasions. We've run a series of forums. These are regional forums in 4 states, and we ran those with advisors, private sector advisors and public sector advisors and farmers. So they've been conducted, and they were to identify key issues and challenges and attitudes, and to inform the trial development. And that's happened. So the trials we'll talk about in a minute, and you'll see lots about them later today. There's an expert panel, of which the majority of members are here today, and the expert panel diagnoses the project as it moves along. It mentors cross-sector approaches to extension, and also private sector capacity building. So that group meet 3 or 4 times a year, and it's wonderful that our international members of the panel are here today. There have also been a number of surveys, and Ruth will be talking about some of the results of those surveys, and you may see in your pack there's some information there. So a number of surveys have been conducted, and Ruth will give you the numbers, but around about 1,000 farmers and 600 odd advisors have provided input into this project. So that's happened as well. There's an element of advisor capability. There are some modules of training and capacity building being developed at the moment, and that's not just something dreamed up. Again, the private sector has had a huge, and the farming and advisory sector have had a huge input into that. So that's been, they're developing and being trialled at the moment. The trials, you'll hear lots about the trials later on. Hopefully that's coming up. Yep, trials by 4. So there's trials with focus on knowledge management, processor engagement, digital agriculture and career pathways. So you'll hear about those later on. And I also urge you to, out on my right there where the tea and coffee is, some of those people will be there at every break. It'll be really useful to go and have a chat with them, along with the agencies that have information stalls out there. Finally, we have national forums. So last year we had one in Wagga in conjunction with a RERDEC extension project. That forum focused very much on broader extension discussion. This one here, again, the broader extension's part of it, but we're very unashamedly focusing on the private sector. And finally, did that come up? There we go. There's today's forum, which Steve has outlined what we're trying to do today. I urge you to have a look in your information pack. There's a summary of what we're trying to achieve today, and also an opportunity to look at the background to the speakers and take notes, etc. And there's, sorry, I didn't see there's other research going along within this. So there are, social network analysis, market failure, and value propositions, which Ruth might touch on today. So those things are going on with the project. And ultimately, we're looking to gain an increased understanding of the private sector, engagement in RD&E. That's important, and to try and make recommendations, actions, and continued improvement in that sector. So we're relying very strongly on you today. So thank you very much, and feel free to catch up with me or any of the project team if you're looking for a little bit more information about the project, because that was pretty brief.